On this combustible episode of MythBusters,
Oh, that's pretty.
Adam and Jamie try a little tenderness.
Red meat and high explosives.
They're testing the myth that blasting the heck out of low-grade steak with high explosives makes it so much softer.
It's awesome. I love results.
Then Carrie gets to torture Grant and Tori.
I knew that we were gonna make him angry, but I didn't realize he'd be this angry.
To see if stressed-out drivers really do use more gas.
Where did those rats go?
I didn't know.
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage.
Hail, people of Earth!
And Jamie Heineman.
Mush.
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience.
These things are always catching on fire.
Joining them, Carrie Byron,
I feel so sci-fi.
Grant Imahara,
Warning, warning.
and Tori Belleci.
All right, release the hound.
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test.
Adam, I thought we talked about doing that while you were at work.
Oh, Jamie, mon frère. You know, many fans have written to us over the years and said, MythBusters, is the hammer the best way to tenderize my steak? Now, thanks to a viewer submission, we may have a new technique, for we might replace this avec this. The question we'll be answering is, can you tenderize a steak with explosives? Oh, it went out.
Over the years, we've used explosives to answer all sorts of vital questions. Can they clear a clogged-up cement truck? Can they help cushion a fall? And can they make a surfable wave? Now it's time to open the fridge on combustible condiments.
So, Adam, if we were using explosives on steaks, wouldn't it just blow up the steak?
I'm going to go without the accent now, okay? It's too hard.
Okay.
Okay, no, it won't. In fact, the technique we'll be testing involves putting the meat into a vacuum-sealed bag, putting that into a barrel of water, and then detonating a small amount of explosives in the water. The theory is that the shock wave created by the explosive will actually tear apart micro-tissue fibers within the meat, rendering it a heck of a lot more tender.
A steak's tenderness depends very much on where it's cut from the cow. Meat from the short ribs is super soft. Meat from the neck and the rump, not so squishy. It's all due to the strength of the connective tissue between muscle fibers. The weaker the tissue, the softer the meat. Two common ways to break those bonds are powdered pineapple enzymes and a sound thrashing. But the fans want to see this third method thoroughly investigated.
If you're going to tenderize meat with explosives, it's not like you're just going to throw a stick of dynamite on the steak and expect it to work. You've got to put it in water because the water's actually going to transmit the pressure of the blast wave a lot more effectively. And you also don't want to contaminate the meat. You've got to seal it in something. So we're going to vacuum bag this meat in some really tough plastic.
These crash test steaks are all relatively low-grade select cuts, so there's plenty of room for improvement. They're sealed and delivered, not to the kitchen, but the bomb range.
By popular demand, today we are joining two of my favorite things. Red meat and high explosives.
What we're creating here is a shock wave that is traveling at supersonic speeds, and it is just ripping apart all those little fibers that make up the muscle of the meat, hence it's tender.
As to how much explosive they need, well, they'll find that out by trial and error.
Tenderizing steak with explosives in 3, 2, 1.
Whoa! Jamie, I think that was too much explosives.
Some chefs add too much salt. Some go nuts with the garlic. But Frank's added way too much C4. What can you say? This recipe is just plain wrong.
Everything else is gone, but the steak is here. Sort of.
So while Adam and Jamie recalibrate, let's jumpstart our second myth.
Okay, I'm relaxed. But what does a shoulder massage have to do with fuel efficiency?
Well, according to this myth, there's a really easy way to save gas. I mean, forget nitrogen in your tires, forget gadgets in your tank. This one has to do with feelings. The idea is that if you're driving and you're relaxed and you're happy, you'll save a lot more fuel than if you're angry and stressed out.
So if you want to save fuel, don't drive angry.
Precisely.
It's a widely accepted fact that bad driving habits like stopping and starting abruptly result in less fuel efficiency. But could the simple act of driving stressed turn an otherwise careful motorist into a gas guzzler?
You know, I really like the sound of this myth. I mean, we get to relax, kick back, and then take a little drive.
You know, it's not gonna be all easy though. It sounds like we're gonna have to get stressed out too.
Oh yeah, in fact, I think it's gonna be dangerous, so we're not gonna do this on the road. We're gonna go to an abandoned neighborhood, and I'm gonna set up a course.
And this is the test track, a once thriving California suburb that someone pulled the plug on.
This is Cypress Knolls, and it's an abandoned military housing neighborhood. And the city of Marina has agreed to let us use it. And there are plenty of neighborhood streets, and we are gonna be tearing around these streets to see if you use more fuel when you drive stressed.
The place is so decrepit that Carrie's forced to make some running repairs.
We've set up a course that includes traffic lights,
Different speed limits, stop signs,
obstacles,
and U-turns.
These streets haven't seen traffic for 15 years. So for the test car, we've gone retro rusty.
So this is the car that we're gonna use for our test. Now it's pretty old and it doesn't get great gas mileage, but that doesn't matter. What we're trying to test here is whether or not driving stressed out or driving calm has a difference on whether or not you use more fuel.
And to get a precise reading on fuel usage, they'll bypass the car's gas tank for a gas bag.
What we're doing is measuring the fuel before and after, but not by volume, but actually by weight, so that it's more precise.
Now for a few practice laps, just to get a feel for the car and the old neighborhood.
All right, who goes first?
Rochambeau.
All right.
Dynamite.
There's no dynamite. No, you're pointing at me. That means I go first.
Carrie's marked out a 4-mile course that, like most racetracks, finally brings you back to where you started. Grant's the first to try a test lap.
Approaching playground, on right.
On the playground, on right, then turn left.
Then Tori tries cruising the cul-de-sacs.
It's like a modern-day ghost town.
Turn left on Lindsay Street, then arrive at Smashed Computers.
All right, looking for smashed computers. Does this GPS sound condescending, or is it just me? Am I the only one that feels this way?
Turn right on 4th Avenue.
I'm the sole survivor. I'm searching for a lone survivor. Hopefully it's a female so I can start procreating.
That's enough of that. Though it might surprise Tori to learn that a rather more wholesome fantasy awaits him just around the corner. Home on the bomb range. Adam and Jamie are testing a viewer myth that low-grade steaks can be tenderized with high explosives. So far, it's a total bust.
Now we're going to pull it all the way back in the other direction and detonate what is essentially an extra-large firecracker full of aluminized black powder, which is a fairly low-speed explosive as opposed to what we just used. And remember, kids, do not try this at home.
Barrels of water and low-velocity explosives might not sound like a good tenderization technique, but hey, it's worth a shot. When Adam and Jamie tested an age-old idiom, the results were surprising.
I killed it!
They found out it's not the bullet that kills fish in a barrel, but the shockwave. The question now is, can a similar shockwave rip through cow flesh and tenderize a steak?
The low explosive we're using is like a really big firecracker. It's illegal for you to have, but of course these guys can have one. It requires a fuse to light it. Now, getting a fuse to light into water is not undoable, but it's a little finicky.
Finicky for some, but for JD, it's just like shooting fish in a barrel.
Well, that was a nice little blast.
It sure was. The bucket's destroyed. But more importantly, how's the steak?
Well, that went perfect. The explosion went off and we didn't ruin our bag of meat. Now, I can't tell anything specific just by touching this meat. The proof in any improvement in texture is really going to be in the cooking.
1, 2, 3.
The bag's intact, so the steak's still good to eat. Even better, they've tracked down someone at the Department of Agriculture who says he knows how to blast a steak to perfection.
And they say that we've got to put a steel plate at the bottom of the barrel. We have to suspend it in the air, and they gave us the precise amount of explosive we have to use. So that's what we're gonna do.
In a few minutes, we should have very tasty meat.
And just for the record, this one goes back to using high explosives.
So we've done Baby Bear and we've done Papa Bear. This is Goldilocks, right?
This is the recommended recipe in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, look at that.
Boom times for fans of exploding meat. And just like last time, the steak is
not breached.
And that means it's time to get cooking. As the sun goes down, the Barbie fires up. So let's meet the meat.
Now, the first one is a low-grade steak. It's not been altered or tenderized in any way. The second one is that same low-grade steak, but we've tenderized it with a low explosive. The third one, we've tenderized with a high explosive. And the fourth one, we've tenderized with a pineapple enzyme commercial preparation. Now, the last one is a prime steak that's been aged 28 days. We're gonna test all of these and see which one is the most tender.
And so as not to influence the results, Adam adds a touch of color.
We have 5 different cuts of meat to cook and test. Each of those cuts of meat has been assigned a color which matches to these pans and our little taste test bowls here.
To ensure there's no bias from the Barbie, steak chef Joe Cohn cooks all 5 cuts just the same. And another celebrity chef has been invited to dine in the dirt.
We're bringing in Ron Siegel, who's the chef at the Ritz-Carlton, and he was the only American ever to win the Japanese Iron Chef program. Ron, thanks for coming on to help us out.
Thanks for coming out to the bomb range.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, where are those steaks?
It turns out that Ron is double qualified to judge this contest. He began his professional life as a butcher.
Gentlemen, we get 5 cuts of meat, and we are to rate them from the least tender to the most tender. It's all about tender.
Let the chewing commence.
Steak's good. Some of it is better than others.
I'm done.
So, drum roll, please. 3 different tasters and 3 totally different results. For this myth to be true, the order should be red, yellow, blue, pink, then green. But no one agreed on anything. And that's got Adam worried.
Even though we had 5 different samples here, the main thing we wanted to see was that the green, the high explosive tenderized meat, would be rated higher than the red, our control. And even though I did that, neither Ron nor Jamie felt like that. So right now, it's not looking that good for this myth. Let's get back to the shop and crunch the numbers. I'm cold.
All right. Is there any more steak left?
Here's a few simple rules for safe driving. Don't do it drunk, distracted, or stressed. Aside from the danger, driving under duress might add to your fuel bill. And that's today's motoring myth. Later on, we'll try to redline Grant and Tori's stress levels.
You suck!
But first, we need a nice, calm comparison test. And Carrie knows just how to put the boys into a mellow mood.
Grant, for you, we have puppies. Tori, for you, we have the director's cut of Blade Runner and all your favorite desserts.
I don't want to leave.
These are the fluffiest puppies we could find. They're 8 weeks old.
Oh, God.
Okay, I think we found Grant's happy place.
While Grant gets acquainted with his extra fluffy puppies, Tori slips next door for a pre-movie massage.
This is the best day of MythBusters ever.
Now we want that calm feeling to last throughout the test, so we're gonna cater to the senses. We're gonna have CD playing that has really soothing music. We're gonna have lavender scenting the car, and aromatherapists say that this is a calming smell. We're going to have a plush seat cover and steering wheel cover, so they have something nice to touch. And we'll see how much fuel that they use when they're in that relaxed mode.
Sounds very calming, but not for Carrie. She's wrestling with a concept that never fails to raise your blood pressure. One size fits all.
Calm day has been a pain in the butt. I'm looking forward to stressful day. I think that's gonna be Carrie calm day. So it's gonna be fun.
Ooh, it smells nice in here. What if I get so relaxed I fall asleep and crash?
I guess we'll find out how fuel efficient a crash is.
Tori's the first cab off this restricted rank with precisely 2,500 grams of gasoline. Now, for the first of 3 nasty surprises as he learns he's not alone out there.
Go, angry driver.
Good job, angry driver. Awesome.
What's that guy's hurry? Woo!
And good job, Tori. You'll notice he didn't respond with gunfire or rude gestures. But every man has his limitations.
Cue, slow driver. Over.
Oh, look at this guy.
Trash can.
Carrie's added these distractions to simulate a typically frustrating day on the road.
He's overtaking the slow driver.
Man, that was annoying.
That doesn't seem very calm.
Now, let's see the response to one very annoying pedestrian.
There you go.
The calm test is almost over. Now for that deliberately difficult parallel park.
Nice San Francisco park. I like the bumper bump.
That's what they call them bumpers.
Nice.
Okay, well now I'm gonna weigh your fuel and see how much you've actually used up, and then we'll have something to compare.
Cool.
So Tori's used 924 grams of fuel. Next step is to top this back off to exactly 2,500 and start the test again with Grant. All right, the birdie has flown the nest. That means Grant's gone.
Do you make this stuff up or is somebody writing it down for you?
There's a rider strike in my head.
Imagine push on right, then turn right.
Okay, that's angry driver. Can you hear him honking?
Oh, I can hear him honky.
Grant takes both the angry and the slow drivers in his sedate stride. He's been told to stick to a safe speed, and that's no problem at all.
That is funny.
Now for the parallel park. Grant's so relaxed, it takes him a minute to find his inner rage.
Is this attempt number 9? Oh!
This isn't fair.
Now you're starting to piss me off.
Oh, see, it's getting... Oh, yeah, that was real smooth. There you go.
Carrie weighs Grant's remaining gasoline and comes up with a figure she wasn't expecting.
All right, Grant used 1,053 grams, which is actually quite a bit more than Tori, but that's not what's important here. They're testing against themselves, so what is important is how much they use in their calm test versus how much they use in their stress test.
And how exactly does one go about turning two very relaxed dudes into quivering wrecks? Oh, this is going to be fun. We're about to find out.
All right, guys. We know one of the most stressful things about driving is having to go to the bathroom and not being able to.
Sweet.
So you're gonna have to drink caffeine all day and the potty's off limits.
Here's the exploding steak story so far. Adam, Jamie, and one of America's best chefs can't agree on which steak is more tender. The prime cut, the one sprinkled with pineapple enzymes, or those we've blasted to hell and back.
I don't know what to do with this one. I'm dumbfounded. We clearly have too many variables in the mix because we could run this test a dozen more times, and I don't think we'd come up with results that agreed with each other.
Yeah, I think having humans involved is the problem. We need to have a mechanical, purely objective test. And for that matter, you know, I was thinking about it, and there have got to be a lot of other ways that we can tenderize meat.
Like what?
What say we fire it out of a cannon at a steel plate? That ought to tenderize it.
I love it. Let's do it.
With explosives, we're passing a pressure wave at high velocity through the meat fibers, and hopefully that pressure wave is going to be so violent that it rips the fibers apart and makes the meat tender. Now, in the case of the air cannon, we're looking for a high velocity impact of the meat against a steel plate.
Jamie's got the plan, the hardware, and the real estate to build a cannon as long as a 4-story building is high. As a tenderizer, it's total overkill, and that's why we're doing it. Today's target is simply meant to stop the steak cold.
That is our target.
It's a toughened steel plate Jamie calls the flower of death.
Now, this is going to be a very sturdy catching device for our steak tenderizing. We're going to be shooting a Kevlar burrito full of meat at it, and hopefully this will help prevent it from just spraying all over the room.
And this is the Kevlar burrito. Raw steak wrapped in a high tensile fiber that should minimize the mess.
Santino, I'm really upset. I think the hemline looks nice now, but it could be a huge disaster.
You realize what we're making? It's cannon con carne asada.
To get a fair comparison between unmodified meat and cannon con carne, Adam's cut each steak in two. One half gets blasted, and the other, control cut, doesn't.
So your very rational question might be, why go through all the trouble to make every steak its own control? See the white parts here? That's marbleization. That's fat and connective tissue. Now, while a good portion of this makes the steak delicious, it also makes it inconsistent. That's why we're going steak to steak. Every single steak is tested against itself for evidence of improvement.
That testing will eventually be done by a highly sophisticated machine that promises indisputable results. Meantime, we've got some steaks to shoot.
The steaks are all prepared and properly labeled. The cannon is all together. We're now going to try and tenderize these with this. The only thing we need left is a plunger, some way to get the steaks from the business end all the way back to the propulsive end.
I do need to figure out how to make a 40-foot long thing that is reliable.
I could probably do it out of PVC and some duct tape.
PVC and duct tape. How did we build the pyramids without them? Which brings to mind the history of the Savage family.
We have been meat tenderizers to the Habsburgs, to Charlemagne, to Louis XIV.
All right.
The 4-cylinder air pressure charge is set, and Jamie estimates the potential velocity at over 400 miles per hour.
Tenderizing meat when you're ready.
In 3, 2, 1.
Oh, shoot. What? Oh. Yeah, see, there's a piece of meat over there. And there's one over there.
Yes, but is it tender? It ripped the Kevlar. I kind of thought that the Kevlar would hold on to it. I guess not.
Thought wrong.
Well, this is actually through the other side. There's your problem. Some meat-soaked Kevlar on the other side.
This is only part of it. I'm missing some.
I think it seems prudent to recalibrate the pressure.
What's the PSI you want to go to?
I'm backing it down a third to 100 PSI.
It's not going to make a single bit of difference. I'm going to bet you that it's not going to make a single. It's going to obliterate it. You want to bet?
No.
20. I got $20. $20?
Well,
Anyone want to give me some action?
But Jamie made this cannon. And hey, let's not forget who runs the joint. So he calls the shots.
This time we're using 4 times the Kevlar. We've backed off the pressure about a third to 100 PSI. We'll see what happens. Firing in 3, 2, 1.
Uh-oh.
Well, there's the outer layer. That's hard on that thing.
Here's the inner layer. Oh, oh, oh.
Once again, this New York strip's been less tenderized than pulverized. But there is hope amongst the carnage.
I think that's still a testable piece of meat.
I would say so.
Yeah, this is number 4. I'm going to cook this now.
Finally, Adam has some useful cannon fodder to test against its unstressed twin.
Here's its other half, unmodified. I'm going to cook both of these. Freeze them again, test them, and see if there's any improvement.
First off, both cuts are cooked precisely.
So the magic temperature here is 70 degrees Celsius. When it's 70 degrees at the middle of the steak, I've reached the USDA standard for cooking a steak for testing.
Once they're cooked, the steaks need to be cooled to 4 degrees Celsius.
Modified cooked. Here's another steak for you, Jamie.
Adam needs more than one sample, and Jamie's happy to fill the order.
Firing in 3, 2, 1.
At 340 miles per hour, it looks like we finally found our range.
It's totally intact.
It's almost enough to inspire yet another change of career.
I can see it now. I start a restaurant, it's Jamie's cannon-fired steak. You know, you place your order, and then a few seconds later, there's this big whoosh.
There are several simple ways to tenderize a substandard steak, but we want to find a way that's both effective and, well, unexpected. For those with limited access to high explosives or 40-foot cannons, turn left at the kitchen and head for the laundry.
So the first thing I thought of was a dryer, because, you know, it's that kind of motion, and if you put a steak or anything you want to tenderize in there, sooner or later it's got to loosen all those fibers up and make it nice and tender.
Sounds straightforward, but to make it work, the dryer needs some modifications.
Okay, so that's the slit right there. If we put that over that thing.
This is dry ice, and this is going to pour down into our dryer and hopefully keep the meat cold while it gets tumbled. Yeah, let's do it.
And to keep the meat company, a generous helping of tenderizing ball bearings.
To the chagrin of our sound guy, we're throwing it in the dryer, a whole bunch of them, and see what that does to the meat overnight.
So far, my neighbors think it's cool to be next to the MythBusters. That could change.
Next morning, the dryer should still be running, but it's not.
Did you turn it off?
I didn't turn it off.
I didn't turn it off.
That's not a good sign.
This is the color of the plastic bags that were in there.
It still kind of turns, but something got messed up. I think we might have burned out the motor.
How many did we put in there? 4?
4.
4 went in and 2 sort of came out.
Adam now has a fridge full of tumbled and blasted meat to test for tenderness. And he's got the perfect machine for an impartial appraisal.
Starting from the bottom up, we've got a plate in here which the meat is placed on. It's got a slot in it exactly the width that the USDA specs the slot in their machine should be. Above that is a blade that is exactly the angle the USD says it should be. Above the blade is a pressure gauge, which, as the blade pushes through the meat, will read exactly the number of pounds of force required to push through that meat. And what's pushing this down at a constant speed but a linear actuator, which I will power with a power supply. This is exactly the way the government tests the tenderness of meat. It ought to be good enough for us.
Tori, Carrie, and Grant are testing the myth that your mood affects your mileage. The boys have already run the course in a state of supreme serenity. Now, Carrie has 2 short hours to turn these angels into deranged, distracted motorists.
Drink that. Come on, come on. We're on time limit. Seriously.
So I've had nearly a liter of caffeinated energy drink.
Carrie has just informed us that we're not allowed to go to the bathroom from this point on. And it's the thought that I can't go to the bathroom anymore that's starting to stress me out.
If you gotta go to the bathroom, you gotta go to the bathroom.
But needing to tinkle in traffic might be the least of their problems.
In each of your drinks this morning, I put one of these. That's why I took it from the car and you got them already opened.
Oh, yes. Is it a laxative?
This is a laxative.
Yes! Payback some. You know what it is.
You've got a few hours left, so enjoy.
Pumped full of jumping juice, the boys are getting real antsy.
You mother! I'm not stressed. I'm totally fine.
Carrie responds by hemming them in.
This is your permissible area. You cannot leave this area, sit in this area, or lay in this area. You must stand within the lines.
I'm not going in a circle. No, I'm not going in a circle. You can't keep me in a circle.
What's your circle?
Man, if we had a football, we could be like chucking the football. Woo! Let's pretend like we got one.
Oh my God, how much coffee have you drank today?
Catch it! Yeah! He can't even catch it in his imagination.
Leaving the boys on a slow simmer, Carrie sets about reverse pimping their ride.
I have got so much stuff I'm really excited about. I've got stink bombs that smell like sulfur, so they basically smell like flatulence. Those are going to go in my scent aerator. I've got some gross slimy stuff that goes on the dashboard. They won't know what it is. It looks like guts. I've got stressful noises I'm going to put in the CD player. I've got a seat cover that is filled with golf balls, so it's just gonna stick in your back, and the seat's gonna be at an uncomfortable angle. I think I might make it wet, and then the steering wheel is gonna be sticky because I'm gonna cover it in cola and then like gross melty candy bars. So it'll not only be sticky, but it'll be kind of slimy, and it'll just be like brown crap all over your hands.
All this suffering is in the name of science, to see if the boys use any more gas when they've got their dander up.
Good news is you guys get to leave the circles.
I like my circle.
Bad news is it's not necessarily gonna be any better. Are you ready? Anti-spa! Come on in.
Howdy!
Oh my God.
Come on in. Welcome to Mad Matt's Man Massage. Right here in the Break Your Back Shack.
I'm over this experiment. How about you?
Get on the table.
Is this gonna hurt?
Well, it depends on how you define hurt.
While Tori gets pummeled, Carrie takes Grant to his own personal hell.
This has nothing to do with driving. It's nothing to do with fuel efficiency. This is all about torture.
Grant's torture is a goldfish foot bath, guaranteed to send his stress levels through the roof.
The problem is that I really don't like any fish touching me. It's just something, it's a phobia that I have.
Now for our final stress-inducing condition. There are 2 live rats in this box. Now, the reason we chose rats instead of, say, snakes or spiders is because rats are self-aware. They're not gonna run under the pedals.
And the first angry man to slide his baleful butt behind the wheel is Tori.
Are you feeling stressed?
A little.
Are you feeling angry?
Yeah.
Carrie adds the rodents, and this stinking, sticky rat trap is ready to roll.
Buckle your seatbelts, little fellas. We're going for a ride.
Grant and Tori have just suffered 2 hours of torture to see if stress really does make them drive more erratically and use more fuel. Carrie's teased the boys to breaking point, and she's modified the car for maximum discomfort. Tori's the first to vent his spleen behind the wheel.
Buckle your seatbelts, little fellas. We're going for a ride.
I would say he's sufficiently angry.
There's no mistaking the look on his face, but he is driving within the speed limit and at least trying to stick to the traffic rules. Adding to his frustration, the racket from the CD means Tori can't hear the GPS.
You're not talking to me.
Tori's actually skipping the course.
He's totally missed a turn, and now the slow driver gets burned off.
You guys got me. Definitely did a great job.
You know, I knew that we were gonna make him angry and stressed out, but I didn't realize he'd be this angry.
Back on the HQ hilltop, they're all standing way back from the curb.
Wow, significant amount of stress. He still has a great parking job.
Well, I definitely saw a difference in the way I drove, calm versus stressed out. I just found myself all day kind of fighting the stress, trying not to let all this stuff get to me. But then at some point I realized, you know what, I need to let the stuff get to me in order for this to be a valid test.
Okay, I think I can see just from the level that I think he's used more gas, but he did a third less of the course, which is kind of crazy. We got 1,089. You were so stressed out that you actually missed pretty much a third of the course. You went right by it.
I did?
Mm-hmm.
You can't hear that GPS.
You still used more gas.
Are you serious?
Shorter amount of time. Your crazy driving that made me fear for your life actually made you use about a third more gas.
That is incredible.
Time for Carrie to top up the tank and fetch Grant from the torture tent.
How was the fish?
Really sucky.
Why are you walking funny?
Might have to go to the bathroom.
And you've got to figure that a man who gets spooked by ornamental fish will not be a rat lover.
One more thing. There are 2 little live rats that are gonna go for the ride with you.
Carrie's turned a puppy kisser into a moving violation. This time around, Grant's demeanor is less demure.
Grant almost missed the turn.
Just like Tori, Grant finds himself accelerating and braking much harder this time around. And his steering's not nearly as smooth.
Where did those rats go? Where did you go? Hey!
Crosswalker in position.
Crosswalker is ready.
Thankfully, Grant's at the end of his run.
Actually,
he's doing better.
He's doing way better like this.
Out. That's it.
At least he ran the full course, and Carrie's in no doubt that angry Grant used more juice than his calm counterpart.
Grant has 826 grams left, which means he used 1,674 grams. Last time he used 1,053 grams.
Grant's also used a third more fuel than on his calm drive. The lesson is clear. Drive under stress, and it will cost you.
You both used a significant amount of fuel more when you were stressed than when you were relaxed.
Yeah, that seemed pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, now we have the results to back it up.
Well, that's cool. This
All
one's
right.
confirmed.
Confirmed?
By the way, how are your stomachs doing? That wasn't laxative. That was a vitamin. So you should be okay. Placebo effect! Are you kidding me? I'm gonna kill you!
Number one.
Number one.
Back in our cowpoke kitchen, the boys are ready to test the cannon-fired meat for tenderness. Each steak from each test is numbered, so they can match those figures with the unblasted control halves.
2.5. 2.1. 2.4. Dude, you know, the readings are looking pretty consistent here.
Now to test those modified meat missiles.
Here's your moment of truth, Jamie. Air cannon testing. Yeah, nothing. 0.0. That could mean it's so tender it just fell apart, but let's try a second one.
Test after test shows their cannon con carne is way softer than the steaks that sat this one out.
0.7. Dude, the averages are in. The controlled steaks were averaging a tenderness of about 1.33. The post-cannon-fired steaks averaged tenderness of about 0.4 pounds.
That's pretty tender.
There's a clear improvement. It just takes a 40-foot air cannon.
Yeah, and about $50 worth of Kevlar.
Now for that marbled mess that totaled the tumble dryer.
All right, this is the ball bearings. And this steak, who knows what we're gonna get out of this.
The very first slice sets the standard.
0. And that seems like an honest 0 to me, man. There's like nothing here.
And that calls for one more reading.
Total 0.
It looks like it's falling apart in your hands, but it does still look like meat. It's not like it looks like hamburger.
So this definitely showed some significant improvement, although the process itself also needs a little improvement.
Steak in a dryer with ball bearings actually did really tenderize the meat. Of course, there were problems because it like tenderized the dryer itself and it fell apart. But, you know, if you get over that, you've got a tender steak.
2 positive results confirming that meat really does benefit from a bashing. Now that they found a reliable way to test for tenderness, it's back to the bomb range to bring this one home. So far, Adam and Jamie have stayed up late to spawn a series of culinary catastrophes. But it's all in a good cause, making tough steak al dente for the cash-strapped consumer. Results were mixed,
2.2.
but they've learned enough to revisit the original myth. The method won't change, but the testing will.
Oh, that's awesome. The first time we were out here at the range, we blew up our steaks, and then we cooked them and ate them in order to gauge their tenderness. And it was a disaster.
Steak's good. Some of it is better than others.
This test was totally subjective. We all three came to different conclusions about everything.
I put the green, then the yellow, then the red, then the pink, then the blue.
So we began to look for what's an empirical, non-subjective test, and we went right to the USDA's testing procedures for grading meat. 2.5, 2.1. So we are following all of their guidelines now with all of our steaks in order to gauge their tenderness.
Adam and Jamie shape a lump of C4 to the size of a pool ball. They add a fuse, then wrap it inside a plastic glove.
There it is, the blue hand of death. Worked for me. Let's put it in.
Following strict instructions, this handful of high explosive is dangled and secured a foot below the surface.
Well, there it is. Let's blow it up. Okay.
The crane's deployed, and the boys retreat to the bunker.
Are we set?
I think we're set.
Tenderizing meat with high explosives in 3, 2, 1. Oh, that's pretty.
We might have to look far and wide for our steaks.
The bucket is history, but they're hoping to find some steaks still fit for the griddle.
Ah, I see a steak.
Yeah.
That's a good sign. Hey, that's totally intact. That's great. This one's breached, I can see that, but these two are totally intact. That's fantastic.
And even that one looks like a usable sample.
Yeah, completely. Well, apparently the practice has paid off. We got exactly what we came here to get. Now it's time to run some USDA grade tests on these and find out once and for all if tenderness resulted from an explosion.
Back at M5, Adam scrapes down the hot plate for the last time. But Jamie's on tenterhooks.
So what, does it feel any different? Like tender?
Doesn't feel that different. All right, sample number 16.
This final test should make or break the myth of tenderizing meat with high explosives.
70 degrees Celsius.
After a quick chill, the unmodified meat is cored and sliced.
2.3. Nothing to sully our science. I'm getting good at this. 2.9. All right, that's pretty good. Let's just call that, and let's do the exploded ones.
We're moments away from finding out if a high-powered shockwave through water really can make steak more digestible.
1.8.
And this time, thanks to modern mechanics, it's not personal.
Another 0.
Okay.
These two zeros are accurate. There's nothing here. I mean, this is,
Yeah.
if you take a look at it.
I would say so. It's going towards the direction of the cannon or the ball bearing.
Jamie works the numbers. Now Adam shows his tenderloin.
I think I know the results. Tell me what the averages are.
Control was 2.82, and the exploded steak was 1.16.
Oh, that's so great! I'm exhausted. All of this protocol to build the machine and to have it actually give us results. We were hoping to see something, and we got something.
Yeah, when you're chewing on it, you can't tell, but the machine won't lie.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love results.
Don't we all? And against all expectations, it seems blasting a steak to kingdom come really does make it melt in the mouth.
Our core sampling from both the control and the exploded steaks is totally conclusive. The high explosives absolutely have a marked effect on the tenderness of the steaks.
Tenderizing steak with explosives? It works. It's confirmed.
Shh, I've only got about 30 seconds. I stole that. I've never actually worn this thing before, but here goes. What you may or may not know is that exploding steak came from an idea put up on the Discovery website. So if you got an idea, log on to discovery.com/mythbusters and we may just put it on the air.
I'm Jamie Heineman. You're watching MythBusters.
Coming up, can you get stuck to an airline toilet? Building a biscuit bazooka.
Oh, no! Wow, that just went everywhere.
The Leaping Lawyer, fact or fantasy?
Scotty, I need power!
You want more?
More!
MythBusters, we're not just going to retell the legends, we're going to put them to the test.
We're prepared to put our bodies on the line.
Why should you trust these guys? Well, Jamie and Adam have over 30 years in model building, animatronics, and toy prototyping. They can build just about anything, and probably have.
This is M5, my special effects shop. Come on in and have a look around.
If we can't find what we need here, there's always Adam's junk collection.
My cigarette dispenser.
The guys are backed by experts in folklore, crime, medicine, and engineering. And they'll need every trick in the book.
So where do we begin? What do we got? Let's go.
This story involves a large woman, a beast woman.
Flying on an SAS flight from Europe.
And as she was going along, she had to use the restroom.
She flushed it while she was still sitting on the toilet.
And it suctioned her down a little bit, and she was stuck.
And they had to land a plane with her on the toilet.
Where the air flight crews had to come and assist her to get off.
What exactly are we going to need to test this?
We have a vacuum pump that is pretty powerful. We have to create a large female posterior. Posterior, is that how we
Posterior,
we
yes.
Yeah, a big ass, and we got to hang it over the toilet.
Did you go to art school, Jamie?
And I build real stuff. I don't know how to draw it. I get the, you know what's what here, right?
Yeah, I do. It could also be like a big leg of lamb cooking over a barbecue, though, with gas feed.
That sounds kind of good. We got to rig a means of measuring how much pull down there is. To me, that means a big fish scale. We'll use a forklift. We'll hoist this big ass over the toilet, and we'll, with the hanging off the fish scale, we lower it on there, and then we turn the pump on, and then we raise the forklift and see how much suck the thing has before it lets go via the fish scale. And we're going to have to we're going to have to invent one, because that's a pretty big fish. This woman was like I guess could have been a 300-pounder.
In the aircraft market, we have approximately 13,000 vacuum toilets in operation on a daily basis.
The toilet story broke in early 2001.
First thoughts we had was that this was impossible.
After initial confirmation by Scandinavian Airlines, Reuters and the BBC ran the story worldwide on wire and web.
We were quite surprised how much press it did get.
We're at Interface Aviation in Hollister, California.
Oh my God.
Interface Aviation is an aircraft recycling company that acquires aircraft parts from all over the world, and they end up here. I like this. This must be the stairway from a...
Oh, yeah.
They've got 3.5 acres of used aircraft interiors.
All the paneling, the bathrooms, all the food preparation. Good Lord.
And the toilets.
And the toilets.
Every kind of toilet that's ever been made for any kind of aircraft, or so it would seem to me.
Yeah.
Well, Wayne, you heard of this legend before this, right?
Oh, everybody's heard of that.
Do you remember what airline you heard it happened on?
No. No. You guys, I know my toilets, but I don't know my legends.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Interface carries two completely different human waste disposal units.
Here's the old style.
Oh, look at that.
It's filled up with blue water, and you can use your own imagination what that water's made of after a while.
Yeah.
The average pressure here is exactly 0.
Right.
Because you're just recycling out of a common tank.
Right.
The pressure should be 0. But if something, say a hairbrush, gets caught in the outlet valves while the aircraft is at altitude,
Now we're talking.
Okay, you see where I'm going here?
Yeah.
She could generate a differential in pressure.
Yeah,
easily.
the greater pressure inside would actually be trying to push her through the hole.
I hadn't thought of
That's a
that.
scenario I
Yeah.
hadn't even thought about, but yes, it could.
Yeah, well, let's see. It doesn't have the lid on it, but...
Yeah, what's the cheek support here? Let's see.
That theory of toilet terror has one problem. It could only happen at altitude.
According to the legend and the information that we have, they said that the woman actually stayed on the toilet until they were on the ground.
Well, that would rule out the pressure differential theory, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
That leaves this vacuum unit. It has pressure at altitude and on the ground.
So, given the pressure down here, do you think you could get a lock between this and someone could actually get sucked down on there?
I really wouldn't even want to venture a guess, but there is a suction, and if you cap that thing, there will be a lock. I mean, you know, that's just the way it works.
Yeah.
It looks like there is some airspace right here, too. And you said the average pressure there is only 3 psi?
3 is coming to mind.
The vacuum toilet operates at 2 different pressures. On the ground, it operates at approximately 3 psi negative pressure, and at altitude, we operate at 8 psi negative pressure, and that pressure is produced by the differential between the inside cabin air and the outside of the aircraft.
This is the one. But at $9 grand, it doesn't come cheap.
Ladies and gentlemen, please flow in an orderly fashion towards the door of the plane. Cross your hands over your chest and slide down the inflatable slide towards the sharks. Thank you for flying. We hope you'll come back soon. Remember, most of our passengers get there alive.
All right.
One of the biggest problems that I see is that that we've got to mimic a woman's butt really well. It has to be nice and fleshy and soft. So we've got to decide on what kind of, it's going to be a rubber of some sort.
Yeah. Well, I've thought of using this rubber that's used in a lot of sex toys because it's very fleshy. It's called hot melt vinyl. I'd like to see a sample of the hot melt vinyl you have. Is this a hot melt?
Yeah, that's the one that's really sticky.
That's the one that I like. This is the one that I want. But we are casting up a really large bottom. And we're going to stick it to an airline toilet seat that we have. So this is actually perfect. This is definitely the stuff yeah, it sounds right. I might want to buy as much as 10 gallons.
So that comes in flesh or clear?
Flesh, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Can I try on that butt head?
You'd like to try the butt head?
I would like to try the butt head. Absolutely.
There you are, sir.
Do I have to pull out the... All right. And now the transformation is complete. I come from the planet Butthead. So, how did you have this done?
So that's actually Carrie's butt.
No. Really?
Except that we let her modify herself.
Okay, I'm gonna take a shot. Try to hold it as still as possible from now on.
We scanned her butt. It's probably the best shot that you'll ever see of your own butt. And then we took it up to the computer and used the freeform tool to enlarge it and put a lot of cottage cheese thighs in there, you know, the whole thing.
Really looks great. It's a really, really nice...
It really looks great. You like that?
I'm looking forward to spanking it.
I don't like this stuff because the melting temperature on it is real close to its flash point.
A 300-pound butt requires some significant reinforcing.
There's a science to making butts. Think of all the Twinkies that go into the actual production of something like this. We're doing in one night what most people spend a lifetime avoiding.
We'll have to leave the butt to cool for 24 hours.
Hope it works.
We're trying to work out just how much suction an airline toilet really has.
How are you building this strain gauge?
This is what I had in mind. If we have our forklift here and we hook a line onto it, we go down to a pivot point and we have a bar that is on the pivot point. And the bar is longer on this side than the other. We put barbell weights over here. We have another pivot point here that goes down to the butt, and there is our strain gauge.
Jamie's brilliantly improvised one of the oldest measuring devices on Earth, a set of scales.
You feel pretty clever? The other thing is, and this is actually not insignificant, you know, we've made an agreement not to damage this toilet, so we want to mount it in a way that it doesn't...
Yeah, well, it's got mount points, good, strong ones.
We might want to also, I don't know, come up on the sides or somehow do some other stuff to it to make sure that it doesn't strain here. I mean, this is definitely welded stainless.
Well, that's why these things cost so much, is that it's all done to high specifications. I mean, look at the welds on these things. It's a perfect little...
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
When we've finished admiring it, we better get on with finding something to make it suck.
I've got one of those things that I believe pushes pneumatics around in the stores when you want to get change in a big department store. You know,
Oh,
those
really?
little...
You got one of those?
Yeah.
The vacuum? Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Our pump generates just 3 psi. That's 3 pounds per square inch of exposed butt.
What is this? This is about 13 inches by 15 inches. So 150 times, what did we say, 3 psi?
Let's say 3 psi. 450.
That's 450 pounds.
Pounds of pull.
Yeah.
So if we had a perfect seal on this with a rubber gasket and everything, it would take 450 pounds to remove it just from a 3 psi.
And you could see how a woman wouldn't be able to get off.
Absolutely, yeah.
She'd have one big hickey.
Big butt hickey. That's going to be hard to explain.
Things are coming together at last.
That's okay.
I think it actually came out pretty nice.
Yeah, I'm not displeased.
Before the experiment can begin, we have to balance the butt. Jamie's using a 4-to-1 ratio, 300 pounds of butt balanced against 75 on the pivot arm.
Okay, guys, we got some serious weight going on here, so never stand under anything at all. Keep your eye on what's going on. We don't know how much weight it's going to take before it rips.
So we're going to turn on the pump. We're going to lower the butt into place. We'll see if we get any pressure on this. We'll let it take weight, and we'll slowly start to raise and see how much poundage it takes to remove Bertha from the toilet.
Sounds like a plan.
Contact.
If the butt creates a seal, we should see a jump in vacuum pressure.
Okay, should I bring it up?
We're still measuring around 3 psi. The toilet seat is preventing us from making a seal.
I think it's much more plausible that she sat down without putting that seat down.
Okay, that's easy to test. That's better.
That's a seal, but it's not taking that much pressure.
We'll pull the plug and see if we can rethink this.
Well, we're getting a significant amount of suction out of the toilet, and the needle was bouncing more without the toilet seat on. And checking all the way around, we had a reasonable seal, but that air gap between the shroud and the bowl just prevented any real suction from occurring.
This myth's starting to look decidedly shaky. These two lugs under the shroud have been preventing an airlock from forming.
I believe myself that the toilets are designed to, to not seal.
Right.
Adam can sniff a conspiracy.
Do you think they put that in after the myth, like as a response?
No.
Personally, I think we might want to try it without the shroud, just to see if there's actually enough suction, if there was a seal.
Okay, contact. Down we come.
All right, bring it on down.
However unlikely, we want to cover the possibility that the victim's butt was so large it reached down and made contact with the bowl.
That's as good a seal as we get.
Okay, Terry, lower the weight.
Time to measure the suction.
All right, here we go.
Go! Keep going, all the way up. There was this whole butt cheek right here. This whole butt cheek was distended about another 3 inches down. The whole butt was deformed. She's got a hell of a hickey. We got a really good seal on the butt crack in that last one. There was a little bit of that it didn't want to give at first when you lifted, but it didn't take very much.
Yeah, I saw what the, I was watching what the measurement on this was.
The toilet was generating 450 pounds of suction, but the scale shows it would take a fraction of that to break the seal.
75 pounds.
Yeah. So, well, that tells
and that's
us.
lifting straight up. I mean, that's just, I'd say a woman this large, I mean, she'd be able to, pull a cheek or move herself around a little bit and release the gap. I mean, we're talking, if someone really couldn't do that, we're talking someone maybe even twice this large. And then I'm not even sure they could fit in an airplane toilet.
Yeah, I would agree.
What's more, a properly functioning toilet creates suction for just 2 seconds.
If something were to go inside the bowl and get stuck inside of there, the pressure is probably about twice as much as a normal shop vac that you would have at your home. As you can see, there's no damage to a person's hand if they do put it inside the bowl. And really all you do is get wet.
Myth busted, and we're prepared to stake Adam's butt on it.
Contact.
All right, here we go. Whoa! All right. That's actually comfortable. I mean, it's a nice cool breeze.
So, are you ready to try it, the real deal?
Sure.
All right. Now, what if you're hurt? Like, what if this starts to feel uncomfortable?
I'll take it gradually. If I feel things moving around that shouldn't be moving,
all right,
I'll disconnect.
Because I can't hear you terribly well in there when I turn the switch.
You'll hear the high-pitched squealing.
All right, contact.
All right. Exposed butt cheek. There we go. All right. Holy shit. All right, that's significant. Oh my gosh! Oh wow, that was really significant. That was. All right. That was impressively significant amount of suction. The whole thing was vibrating with the pressure. We got up to 5 psi. Yeah, that was significant. I mean, I had
I'm trying to talk scientifically. I was able to use my arms, but like if I didn't have arms, I would not probably have been able to free myself. I'm not sure what we proved here, but at least it's good television. Another one bites the dust. Good work.
This next legend involves, is called the biscuit bullet, and it's actually pretty funny.
The way I heard it, the sister of a friend went to the supermarket.
And it was on a very hot day, and she hears this loud explosion behind her.
And when she heard the pop and felt this sticky mass in the back of her head, she thought she'd been shot.
And so she better just kind of hold still and try and hold her brains from falling out of her head until the paramedics get there.
And when the paramedics pry the woman's fingers off the back of her head, they find that she's hanging on to this mass of raw biscuit dough.
So what do you think we're going to need for this experiment?
Well, we're going to need some biscuit dough of a bunch of these canisters of different sizes or different types and brands. So we've got to get a car.
We can use my car to do this. I would think that we'd want to duplicate the car's interior temperature by, say, pointing heaters into the windows.
Can we build a fire under your car? Do you mind?
Yeah, absolutely. That's no problem at all. We would want to get the temperature stable in the car and then move the biscuits right in and start the timer and see how long it takes them to go off. All right, so you want to go to the grocery store and pick up a selection of these? I'll pull in my car and the heaters and start preparing stuff?
Sure.
Step 1 in our recipe, getting the dough.
I'm guessing that the different mixes, like you got your flaky biscuits and you got your, super duper buttermilk whatever's, there are going to be some differences in those things.
It may be that there's, a certain amount of baking soda in one as opposed to another that would make it more prone to, building that high pressure.
The tins are meant to be refrigerated, so we'll keep them in a cooler until the experiment begins.
I had an idea that, it's not only the car's temperature, but potentially the freshness of the biscuits that might have contributed to their exploding. To that end, we've had this one out for 10 days. And we'll put that in our, as one of our control groups to see if it explodes faster.
Step 2, mounting the tins in the car.
I was thinking just in terms of being able to get a reasonable spread, maybe a rack of 6.
Maybe for fun we should make a thing like,
a holster.
A holster like shotgun shells, like you're nobody moves, nobody gets hurt.
Right, wearing it under your vest when going through airport security.
Step 3, determining the right baking temperature.
So it's a rare sunny day in San Francisco. The skies look really clear and it's 9 on the nose. We're gonna place a thermometer in my car. We're gonna check back in a couple of hours and see where we can get the temperature to.
It's no coincidence that the biscuit bullet story first started making the rounds in the summer of '95, one of the hottest summers on record.
So it's about 3 o'clock. The car's been sitting out here all day with the thermometer in it. Temperature's hovering right around 140 degrees.
To ensure a consistent baking temperature, we're going to bring the car inside and heat it artificially.
So Adam, let's load this thing.
Okay. I'm hoping we see a pretty significant change in the heat kind of fast.
Well, it ought to. These are radiant heaters, so, it's, this is like the pure form of what the sun gives as far as just what actually heats it up.
So, do you have the thermometer? I'll get the timer. We're up to 105.8. It's looking good. Maybe another 15 or 20 minutes. It's going to be hot in there. I don't know if you want to sit in the car You know, wait for the biscuit dough, you know, or if I sit in the car, you know, maybe we take turns.
All right.
I think from about a foot away, you know, it's totally safe for us to, you know, be able to be the subjects in the car. I wouldn't load my shorts full of these things in a hot car.
That's a scary thought.
Remember that one about CDs melting in the heat?
It might still work.
It's not a myth.
It's starting to smell really strong of like almost burning plastic in there, so I don't think either of us should sit in there. I made up a rack to put the head in. All right?
You mean you don't want to get hot is what you're saying?
You can go climb in there, but it's
pretty stinky.
You can suffocate.
120 degrees. Time to get baking.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Leading brand flaky. Leading brand buttermilk. Competitor flaky. Competitor buttermilk. Unrefrigerated. Small tin.
And the clock is ticking.
I'll say within 8 minutes.
2 hours, maybe 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Do I lose if I go over, or if it's closer to 8 minutes than 2 hours? So we're saying 8 minutes or 120 minutes?
Yeah.
All right. I'll put $1 down on that. There, put it on the card.
All right.
Now we wait?
Now we wait.
All right. Can we see any physical change in them?
No, I don't see any change in them. Your dashboard's starting to melt, though.
I've been working in this area for about 30 years. I've never heard of this type of thing happening, but as you think about it, you've got the potential there. Because if you have enough heat, the pressure that's created by the gas inside can cause that container to pop.
Do you think the flakies are going to go first or the buttermilks?
The small one's going to go first because it has less mass. It's going to take at least probably a half an hour for the interior of those things to show hardly any change in temperature, much less
you're
enough
right.
to...
Need to work through.
Yeah. I mean, it's too much mass.
It's still going to be way less than 120 minutes.
We'll find out.
The leavening agent is sodium bicarbonate, and it is reacting with an acid to produce carbon dioxide, CO2. If it is not released, you're going to create pressure in that container to the point where, as the reaction continues, that container can burst.
Whoa! Jamie.
What?
You know what happened?
What?
It jumped out of the rack. That's the small
Oh.
can that was in the rack. It jumped out of the rack and into my cup holder.
I'll be darned. And so where was our clock? Where were we at?
We were at like 58 minutes on the nose.
So you won the bet then?
Yeah, in fact, I did. I'd like
So
to
you won
remove
the
that
bet.
one before it bakes dough into my cup holder.
Although I was right about which one was going to go first.
You were absolutely right. Whoa! That was kind of spectacular. I mean, we're missing a whole tin. I don't even see it in there.
Adam, which tin was it?
That was the unrefrigerated. That was the unrefrigerated flaky dough. Well, now, there you go. I mean, it blew the top right off of that thing. That was the unrefrigerated leading brand. I mean, this is stupefyingly boring, but, you know, things are blowing up in my car. What could be better, right? I can wait for that. I just want to see one. I don't want to have to review the videotape. I want to actually see one blow. Whoa!
It's 137 degrees right now.
Well, that seems to be the butter zone. I mean, everything's happened above 133 degrees.
That was the competitor's dough. It's not proving to be any more or less explosive than the leading brand.
We should do this in Vegas, and then we can say, I went to Vegas and I blew some dough.
that's a spectacular one. Whoa! Ooh. Oh, man. I definitely could understand how you'd mistake this for brains. Here.
Well,
No,
I'm
come
not
on.
going to do
Come on.
anything with it.
Well, no, feel it. Feel it. Agree with me.
Yeah, it's definitely brains. Whoa!
What, did another one go?
I saw that.
No.
Yeah.
Did it look
it's all
cool?
over. Yeah, that one spewed.
Oh, man.
That one spewed pretty good.
That tin is just like
that one
decimated.
No, that one was pretty energetic. I saw what it like ricocheted off the back of your seat. Like
Really?
Yeah, you can see bits of it. See that little speck that's left there?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That might be our smoking gun.
The guys thought there might be a difference between flaky and buttermilk. Seems they're wrong again.
That's cool. 208 minutes at 140.5 degrees. Oh, no! Wow. That just went everywhere. I mean, I just saw it vaporize. Look, it's in the front seat.
Yeah, the whole can landed in the front seat.
The whole can landed in the front seat, which means it had to come across this way, easily hitting the head.
Yes, there can be accidents, but I've never heard of an accident like this. I wouldn't worry about being hurt. I may have a premature bursting of my container, but I wouldn't worry about wounds from shrapnel from my dough. Of course, I don't leave my groceries in the car at 140 degrees Fahrenheit or higher anyway, because there are other problems we can run into with food products and microorganisms.
There you go.
I mean, I think we've definitively proved that this is entirely not only plausible but possible.
Yeah, we've
under
seen,
the right circumstances.
We've seen projectiles come out, like actual biscuits.
Yeah, that one
entirely.
fired almost 3 feet.
Yeah, this one's kind of like a biscuit cannon,
Yeah.
like a mortar.
Exactly. I think without a doubt a can of biscuit dough has exploded in somebody's car. I mean, in a hot car, a can of biscuit dough will go off within 3 hours, 3.5 hours.
This is something of a first for MythBusters. We can show the myth is physically possible, but there's no hard evidence that it ever happened.
I tried to track it down. I tried to find the friend of the friend. I couldn't do it. I tried to find the location where it actually happened. I couldn't. I looked for police reports. There were none. And the truth is, this didn't happen. There was no woman so stupid that she thought she was holding raw dough on her head. And that's kind of nice to know.
All right, ready? Ready. Okay, you're watching MythBusters. So the falling lawyer, what's the story?
Well, the story goes that there was a lawyer on the 24th floor of a high-rise.
He was showing off his masculinity and his bravery in front of some kind of class.
He'd bounced up against this plate glass window, maybe trying to, have some fun.
And he did it repeatedly and had no problems.
And then he did it again, and this time he simply went through.
And down this guy goes, falling 24 floors from his office to the ground, and he promptly dies.
Our task is to prove whether this is possible or not.
So what are the elements we're going to need to replicate this?
Well, we're going to need a pane of glass. We've got to build a mock-up body. We have to create some sort of a track and a means of loading this dummy body. We'll probably use some. I've got a bunch of surgical rubber tubing that we can make a big slingshot.
Okay.
And we'll have to also rig various ways of measuring, so we're consistent about it. How much force we're putting on him.
Right. I mean, the figure we want to come up with is whether or not it's possible for a person running at a reasonable clip into the window has enough pounds of force behind him to actually break the window.
The first reaction is complete disbelief, and then the second reaction is, well, I heard that happen in New York or Moscow or Hong Kong or something like that. It's just one of those stories that seems to have kind of gone around the world. With stories like that, you never really know if they're true. You never know if the kernel at the core is real or not.
first we need to decide what kind of track it is, whether we want. I'm thinking that we should roll it along the ground kind of track rather than hang it.
You've got the great, the dolly track with the skateboard wheels.
Okay.
That's got a really low friction. I've only broken one bone in my body. My neck.
So, how to build a lawyer? We're going to assume that this guy wasn't a fat cat. We'll make him, say, 160 pounds.
Well, they're going to be about, call them 20 pounds apiece.
They're 20 pounds each, so it's going to be, it's going to be 8. Now I'm about to weld a steel frame that'll hold up the sandbags to distribute their mass roughly like a person's body.
These wooden blocks will stop our lawyer from falling backwards when he accelerates. But he'll be free to fall when the cart stops at the end of the track.
Hey.
On to the next task, finding the right pane of glass. Something that would be suitable for the 24th floor of a skyscraper.
It's normally a thickness, which is greater than the thickness that you see in house glass. You're talking about 6 millimeter or 10 millimeter.
At 3/4 of an inch, this 4-foot by 8-foot pane seems to be the standard size.
So we successfully have a piece of glass for the falling lawyer. Thanks.
I think I'll build the frame out of just plywood, and we'll seal it up with some caulk, just like you would in an aquarium. And we may want to, we'll put the tempered glass in the front. Look at that.
Ready?
Yeah, okay.
Oh, could have counted 3.
Glass comes in sealed units, and they're set into recesses in frames, so that they're supported around the total perimeter, usually.
Our frame won't just support the glass, it'll also allow us to reproduce some of the forces at work inside tall buildings.
And then we also have to think of things like, if there's pressure in the building, or that would either tend to, make things different.
Unfortunately, the myth doesn't describe the weather on the day in question. So we're going to assume that it was calm. But even then, air pressure is at work.
Inside of a building, there's a lot of things happening. There's mechanical equipment which is exhausting air, and there's mechanical equipment which is pushing air into the building. And if you don't get the same amount of air going out as you're pushing in, then you start to build up pressures within the building.
This stack effect is just 1.47 pounds per square inch. But we think that's going to be crucial.
Because the glass has, it's like 4,600 square inches, the amount of force, there's not much of a...
Yeah, well, you wouldn't think so, but it's a funny thing about pressures like that. When you're thinking in terms of PSIs and so on, it adds up. Even a very small fraction of a PSI times 4,600 starts to get into, 1,000 pounds.
Oh, right, across the whole face of the glass.
Yeah.
So it could have played a significant factor in the windows breaking on that particular day.
4,600 pounds of pressure is definitely something we want to factor in.
So that means that our frame, that the window's going in, actually has to be a
like
chamber.
A pressure chamber.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right. We'll seal it off in the back, and we'll hook a vacuum or a pressure pump up to it.
Jamie doesn't have a pump large enough to increase the air pressure in the shop. Instead, he'll reproduce the stack effect by sucking air out of the chamber.
What I think we should do with this thing is, because there is so much pressure here and we don't know what we're doing, we don't want to explode the glass. I figure we'll just roll it over the orifice, and just kind of watch the needle. And, we can either mess with the valve or not, but that way, if we seal it off and we turn this thing on, even if we have the valve,
bust the whole thing.
Yeah. So this way, we'll be leaving ourselves an opening.
Go ahead.
I can see the flex bowing.
This pump is too powerful. It's threatening to rip the plexiglass out of the chamber. And our vacuum gauge isn't sensitive enough.
You know what I think we should do is that we should just rig our own gauge in terms of inches of water. I believe inches of water is going to be a lot more sensitive than inches of mercury because it's a lot lighter than what mercury is. I mean, it's literally, we put a tube in there, like a U-shaped tube. It's just like a barometer at home. And that's the kind of scale that we're dealing with is like, you know, barometric pressure.
Right.
It'll be an interesting thing for us to know. We just, with a tube of water, we'll get all the sensitivity we want.
All right.
So it should be about 4 inches of water for the minimum.
No. Oh, yeah, you're right.
0.03.
So you're right. That's magnificent.
We've rigged this leaf blower to suck. Hooked up to a variable switch, it should also be easier on the plexiglass.
Armadillo. There we go. All right. You want to, okay. I'll tell you when we're, let's see here.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, that's beautiful. We got sensitivity, baby. Keep going. A little more. Scotty, I need power.
You want more?
More. More. 3 inches of water. Yes. Little more. Ah, that's it.
Is that it?
That's it. 0.145 negative PSI.
We've proved the principle. Now, with the addition of some glass tube, a scale, and food dye, we have a working gauge.
Mr. Savage, if I could suggest that you put a drop of the coloring in there first.
No, I was thinking I'd put it in after and then I'd go and mix it up. I thought that would be kind of cool.
Ah, okay.
With the stack effect problem solved, it's time to rig the slingshot.
I won't let go. Oh, man.
So,
it's just like,
you know, it'll develop some velocity.
that's really satisfying and kind of dangerous.
And we'll rig our slingshot somehow on, you know, we can tie to the side of the shop or something like that.
So I was thinking to figure out his velocity, to figure out how fast he's traveling, we don't have a radar gun or anything like that. I was thinking we could take some flats and actually grid them.
Okay.
And then shoot from the side with one of the cameras, which give us, you know, 25 frames per second. And then we can, you know, slow-mo through the tape. We can frame by frame through the tape and see exactly how fast that he's traveling.
Finally, everything's in place.
3 yards, that's my bet.
I'll guess that it's going to go 5 yards.
5 yards? This would be cool if I could see.
There we go.
Look at that. All right, first run from 1 yard. Nothing. 3 yards. Here's my $5 going to hell. Penalty, 5 yards.
160 pounds at 3 miles per hour. Our lawyer just isn't cutting the mustard.
We got 1 more yard.
I think we're going to end up going to 2 bands. What do you think?
I think we're going to end up going to 2 bands too.
We ready?
Ready? All right. 2 yards. Go. 3 yards. Go.
Even with 2 elastic bands, our lawyer is still coming off second best.
This is contacting here, and all of this is bowing backwards.
Right.
And as this comes in for a second, and then, you know, so it really is, all these things aren't really making contact.
5 yards. Here we go. Whoa! All right.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Ready, and
2, 3, go!
it is possible that it's not possible for a person to throw himself through the window.
Entirely plausible, but
We will make it through this
I
window.
want to make it through the glass.
But it may not be possible for a human to do that by himself.
I'm Bruce Tamara. I'm a reporter at the Toronto Star, and you're watching MythBusters.
So far, we haven't had much success getting our lawyer friend to smash the glass. But Jamie's working on a hunch.
I'd be inclined to put all the steel bags, or all the sandbags up high.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, starting here.
Yeah.
You know, 2, 4, 6, 8.
Redistributing the weight up high will concentrate the impact.
Something like...
Meanwhile, our structural engineer is working on a different theory.
Glass is an unpredictable material. And although we use it and we see it performing very well in thousands of cases, there are certain things which will cause it to act in a way we don't expect.
All right, so this is 1 yard. 2, 3, go. Just getting a hammer.
If there's nicks in glass, it tends to cause what are called stress razors. And so you can break the glass with less force than you would a piece of glass that isn't nicked.
2 yards. 1, 2, 3, go. That seems better.
It's feeling pretty sturdy.
Yeah.
Probably 1,000 times, nothing will happen. But you're dealing with a very brittle material, and it doesn't give you any warning. It doesn't bend like steel. It doesn't bow like wood. It just goes kapump, and then you're out on the street.
3 yards. Ready?
Ready.
2, 3, go. Yeah! That was spectacular.
It worked.
It did, from 3 yards. I won myself $5. Wow. Yeah, the distribution of mass made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Listen to it. It's like Rice Krispies. That speed seems, you know, we'll look at it on camera, but that didn't look too fast to run at all.
Yeah,
That
it wasn't
looked
excessive.
very reasonable.
And
160 pounds up on the torso
Yeah.
into a window with negative pressure. Nice. Yeah, that's not that far at all.
Our lawyer covered 10 feet in 1.8 seconds, which works out at 5.7 miles per hour.
You jump like the bat landed in your hair, dude. Even if it's double the 7 miles per hour, it's well within a human's ability to run. And it seems totally possible with that pressure that he could have broken the window.
I'd agree. It looked like probably the kind of speed I'd get up to if I was lunging at the wall. You know?
Yeah, especially with only 3 yards of start. You know, it's only 9 feet. You can't really get up that fast. I think the final thing was that redistribution of the mass up top. I think that made all the difference.
Yeah.
I think the other rig was flexing way too much.
This is absolutely a true story. It happened at this location, at this office tower behind us. The coroner who investigated the incident decided not to hold an inquest because it was such a freak accident, and it would be extremely rare to imagine someone else doing the same thing purposefully.
That was fun?
Yeah, that was fun. I like breaking things.
Yeah, breaking things is cool.
Yeah!
Here come chickens of mass destruction. The MythBusters are firing their chicken gun to see which does the most damage, thawed or frozen.
I would say that what you got there is a potential supersonic chicken.
Doing the laundry can be a killer chore, but can it actually kill you?
The washing machine from hell
is about to be unleashed upon the world.
Adam and Jamie are getting intimate with a giant octopus. Could a human give birth to one?
No, really, honey, those are octopus hickeys.
Who are the MythBusters?
Am I missing an eyebrow?
Adam Savage.
I always enjoyed seeing Adam in pain.
Oh! And Jamie Heineman.
Jamie wants a big boom.
Between them, more than 30 years special effects experience.
Feel kind of sexy.
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test.
Well, Jamie, I got an angry chicken, a really big gun, and an airplane. What are we working on?
Well, we're here testing the myth of the chicken gun.
Scientists conduct impact tests by firing bird carcasses from big guns. With more than 3,000 bird strikes each year, aviation authorities spend millions trying to protect the cockpit crews.
We know that the military uses chicken cannons to test windshields, you know, how they would do with a bird hit. What's the myth?
Well, the myth says that the British borrowed this technology from NASA to test high-speed trains. But they ran into a problem, and the problem was that the chickens were going right through the windshields of the trains and even embedding themselves in the seats further down inside the train.
That would be bad.
Yeah. Well, the British were horrified at this, of course, and they sent a tape back to NASA asking for help. NASA replied saying, "Gentlemen, thaw your chickens."
Well, so this is what we're testing here today. Not that there is a chicken gun in existence, but whether or not there's a difference between a frozen and a thawed chicken at a couple 100 miles an hour to an airplane windshield.
That's correct.
To fire thawed or frozen chickens at high speed, the MythBusters will need a sealed tank and compressor to supply air for the massive gun. An industrial-strength butterfly valve will provide an explosive release for firing the carcass down the long barrel. The target? A used fuselage and several spare windshields.
There are loads of stories where one country pokes fun at another, particularly where America is involved.
MythBusters folklorist Heather Joseph Witham.
There are versions of this narrative where it's the Royal Canadian Air Force, for example, that invents the chicken gun, and it's borrowed by American airplane manufacturers who don't know how to use the gun right.
First stop for anyone buying light aircraft spare parts in California is Ken Faith's yard in Sacramento.
Windshields I'm thinking about might be over here, some of them.
Acres of used light aircraft components make it a prime location for Jamie and Adam to find a fuselage and extra windshields.
I love places like this. I could spend hours here looking through the gauges and headsets and seats and, you know, hats.
Look, a chicken. Looks like a bird already went through it.
It did. What about something like this, Jamie? You know, we get double the bang for our buck.
I certainly like the looks of these better.
Aircraft chosen. Now, how to get it home? Jamie and Adam have been all over Kenny's yard, but there's one question they forgot to ask, an oversight that will come back to haunt them.
Not bad, sir. Very good.
Never done that before.
Keep going. Good.
Had a lot of Stranger Things in my pickup at this point, so this is another one to add to my list. Okay, set it down.
Back at the workshop, the plane is stored until the chicken gun is built and ready to fire.
Well, we've got our target, so the next step and the hardest step is going to be to set up the chicken gun. That means that we have to build a large tank to hold a whole lot of high-pressure air and rig some kind of a valve to let go all that air all at once to fire a chicken. It's kind of tricky. It's a lot of work.
And Jamie should know. He's solved the compressed air problem once before.
Yeah, baby.
He built this 7-Up vending machine with attitude for a TV commercial.
Cool.
With impressive results.
One of the things that I noticed was that the firing system that we set up required a large valve that delivered a whole bunch of air all at once, and thought, wow, this is great. You know, we should use this on the chicken gun because it requires exactly the same thing. It's a simple, elegant design. It's exactly what I like to see come out of the shop. It's fun, yet deadly. What else could you possibly want to come out of an effects shop?
So the search for the perfect high-pressure tank begins.
Wow.
The Machinery and Equipment Company in Brisbane, California is a vast supermarket for used tanks.
You can flip this in any direction. That could be upside down. You can hang it from something or leave it like that.
What do you want for this thing?
This is $750.
Okay.
Jamie, it still occurs to me that it's way overkill for what we want to do.
Jamie has made his choice, but Adam is not happy about safety. He feels that the tank is too sophisticated and that over-modification could weaken the structure.
It's like your intuition is that it's not like a bomb.
Yeah.
But if it is, we're all dead and
Well, this is true, but...
So, erring against the side of caution,
Okay.
even if your intuition is right, is stupid.
Okay, well, think about it, though, before you go off like that.
Well,
When everyone who you talk to describes 250 pounds per square inch as being like a bomb,
And Jamie just says, well, I'm not that concerned about it. It's like, that's not good enough for me.
Adam was just having a little bit of a hissy fit about the safety aspect of this thing, and, you know, I don't hold it against him at all. The possibility of having the tank rupture and somebody get hurt is something that we should be very concerned about. However, I don't think it's going to blow up.
But Adam's not convinced. He's called around town and found another tank.
What I've got, I found a guy who's got one. It's about half that size. I think it's just perfect for us up in Petaluma.
Okay.
I need some cash and I need the keys to the car, Dad.
Okay.
500. All right.
Drive carefully.
Vegas, baby.
Adam's ideal tank is waiting out back at Maselli & Sons.
And what's it rated for?
200 PSI. There you go.
That is good. I love it. Let's do it.
That's it.
Meanwhile, Jamie has found an oversized butterfly valve that will release the pressurized air. He also ordered 20 feet of quarter-inch steel pipe for a 10-inch diameter barrel.
Hey, Savage.
Yo, Heine.
So,
Here she is.
Even Jamie is impressed with Adam's purchase. It's an ideal tank for storing enough compressed air to propel chickens.
I recognize that your intuition, like mine, is...
It appears Adam has a little something to get off his chest.
I didn't mean to call you stupid this morning.
Did you call me stupid?
I didn't. I said stupid, and I was talking to you, but I wasn't calling you stupid.
Okay. Nobody ever calls me stupid.
I've called you stupid, but not to your face.
Not in live.
Jamie's using a plasma cutter, a high-energy precision tool to cut the pipe to length and to make a hole in the tank for the barrel. For the explosive release of air, the butterfly valve will be fitted between two lengths of pipe. Adam's job is to fit the short end to the tank.
I just dropped the temple of my glasses here into the tank, the really heavy, big tank with a hole in it. Got some chewing gum?
Just goes to show, where there's a will, there's a way.
There we go. One glasses temple. Now I can get to work.
The big valve is the most critical aspect. It's the only mechanism standing between a great shot and a weak one.
When we pressure this tank up, this can hold 250 PSI. We'll get it to about 200 and then yank on this,
and chickens be flying.
The air compressor is connected to the tank. Time for a chicken-free test blast at 200 pounds per square inch of pressure.
Stand clear.
There goes the neighborhood.
Give us a countdown then.
2, 3, 1.
It looks impressive, yet the white smoke is simply water vapor forming droplets when the previously hot compressed air meets the cool.
Feels like a Mack truck just drove by me. I just wonder what a chicken breaking the speed of sound sounds like.
If you're going to let your chickens fly free range, there's no better place to stock up than Tarantino's. Tony's family has been in poultry for years, and he's heard all the chicken stories.
Tony, do you think there'd be any difference between whether they used frozen or thawed chickens?
I would imagine frozen would be harder.
They could do more damage.
Do a little bit more damage. I think the fresh just might kind of splat.
Yeah.
So if you were in a plane, you'd rather hit a thawed chicken than a frozen one?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, I don't imagine there's many frozen chickens at 2,000 feet.
No, maybe. It's cold up there.
And freezing down here. Their chickens of choice, 8 rock-hard 4-pounders. The key to launching chickens explosively is to ensure they fit the barrel snugly. Adam places them in a mold of expanding rigid foam. The result is a sleeve called a sabot. It enables projectiles to be fired from weapons of a larger caliber.
So once the foam sets up and gets rigid, what we end up with is this perfect sort of molded cartridge for the chicken that equals the size of the barrel and allows us to propel it out.
I would say that what you got here is a potential supersonic chicken.
Just a few bolts to tighten, and this very potent chicken gun is ready for its first outing. Bringing up the rear is Bruce Bradford, a man who knows all about gigantic guns. He's the designer of one called Second Amendment. At the annual Punkin Chunkin in Delaware, these huge air guns blast pumpkins nearly a mile. With Bruce, the 2002 and 3 world champion, who better to consult on the business of big barrels?
I think it's a great looking gun. It's got all the basics. It's got a tank, it's got a valve, and it's got a barrel. Excellent job of welding by Adam, that's for sure. And it's going to shoot a chicken at high velocity.
The countdown to chicken blastoff has begun. Unsure of the chicken gun's firepower, for safety reasons, they sit the plane inside their blast chamber.
You want to lean it right there?
To check their aim, they need a test shot. So, a sheet of Lexan is positioned to protect the windshield.
So our first test is a frozen chicken. Let's see here.
The tank is primed to 120 pounds per square inch of air pressure.
There we go. That is one loaded chicken gun.
I'm good.
All right. Get out of here. We are arming the chicken cannon. I'm gonna stand back here.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
All right! I told you right there. Oh, good man.
Out of the barrel and free of the sabot, the frozen chicken clocked 121 miles an hour.
Wow! So much for the blast shield.
So even if you're flying with a rated plexiglass shield in front of your plane, you're in some serious danger. Where's the chicken? Oh my God. You know, who knows what the damage to the neighbors would have been if this had gotten out. Oh.
You know, that's about one of the more destructive things that I've ever done. That was cool.
Yeah, that was exceedingly cool. Let's do a thawed.
A replacement windshield is fitted for another shot. This time, a thawed chicken. The big question, will it cause as much damage as a frozen one?
3, 2,
Under the same pressure, the thawed chicken was marginally slower than the frozen one, but still reached a destructive 99.5 miles an hour. For the next shot, the tank pressure will be reduced by more than half, down to 50 psi. They're hoping to see a difference between frozen and thawed at a slower speed.
And 3, 2, 1.
Another frozen bird is blasted, this one at 128 miles an hour.
Jamie.
Yeah?
There was no difference in speed between 120 psi and 50 psi.
It may just be that initial blast, like it's probably within the first like eighth of the valve opening, it's gone or something, you know?
The rapid air release is crucial. Bruce's winning blast flew a 10-pound pumpkin almost 4,000 feet.
Sometimes we can shoot just as far, shooting 75 pounds as we put 200 pounds in.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, just the timing and the way the valve opens, and yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Once more into the breach for the thawed bird at the 50 psi mark.
1.
Its clocked speed a shattering 132 miles an hour.
You know, if anything, the thawed chicken leaves a bigger hole.
Which would kind of make sense.
It would. Its impact spreads out as it hits, but it's still the same amount of mass going through the same amount of space.
Right now, they're all going right through the windshield. So assuming that there is a minute difference and we want to find out whether there is, we're going to have to lower the speed down to find out exactly where that butter zone is.
They cut the pressure again to just 25 psi for the frozen fowl. And then thawed. The MythBusters' awesome outcome, all their flying poultry highly destructive.
I'm totally shocked.
Does that mean that the myth is busted?
I think that would mean that the myth is definitely busted.
But wait, there's a hitch. Those light aircraft windshields they bought are not rated for bird strikes.
Well, Jamie, that's the biggest screw-up we've ever done. I mean, we're supposed to test the difference between frozen and thawed chickens, and the Piper Cherokee, its windscreen is not even rated to be smacked into by anything.
Yeah, it was like trying to check the difference between a 22 and a 357 by shooting at a cardboard box. I mean, it looked really destructive. It looked great, but it didn't really tell us anything.
Yeah.
For the moment, the MythBusters are stymied, but already they're formulating a new plan to measure the chicken's force of impact. We'll tell you about it a little later in the show.
It automatically deboned the chicken, didn't it?
Now, here's a twisted tale. It involves a strange proposition in the park.
Does the Dane have to pee?
And the MythBusters airing their dirty laundry.
His feet go up and in, and then we lift him up.
No.
While building the appliance Bride of Frankenstein.
We're about to blow the lid right off this puppy.
You are about to get a load of the myth that defies the imagination. The killer laundry.
In 1998, a Charlottesville man attempting to do a large amount of laundry stuffed his washing machine with 50 pounds of clothes.
So he wants to get all of his laundry into the machine at once. So he takes this 50 pounds of laundry and he's jumping up and down on top of the machine to get it in there when his foot accidentally kicks the on button.
He sort of fell into the machine. His legs got stuck by the laundry and he banged into the shelf. He hit some bleach. Bleach blinded him. Apparently he might have even swallowed some.
At this point, his dog runs in to see what the commotion is about. And as he spins around, this time he hits the shelf again and some baking soda pours out. This startles the dog, who then urinates on the baking soda,
causing a small explosion, at which point the laundry machine went into its spin cycle, turning him at about 70 miles an hour, where he smacked his head into a shelf and died immediately.
Well, that sounds ridiculous.
Now, we do need some dog pee, but let's not rush into that. Start simple. Buy a washing machine.
What's the largest one that you would have in stock?
The large one.
Yeah.
It's a heavy duty, super capacity.
Do you think that this could hold 50 pounds of clothes?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
All right.
So what do you think, Adam?
My vote would be this one.
Yeah?
Yeah, for the volume.
Okay. We, of course, went for Super Capacity Plus from a major maker of washing machines, and hopefully it'll be as powerful as about anything that's out there.
And already, one part of this myth is looking a little busted.
The very first precept of the myth, which is that he's standing in a washing machine that's running, is probably impossible. All the washing machines they have in here have cutoff switches when the lid is open.
But this visit has proved one thing. Adam Savage can never leave a junk shop empty-handed.
I'm thinking of, like, you know, maybe having it a way that my kids can get the toys out of their closet.
Next on our laundry list, 50 pounds of clothes. Adam's favorite thrift store has what we need.
Men's, women's, children's, lingerie. You can get a lot of lingerie for 50 pounds.
We actually use a lot of lingerie on this show, don't we?
We
for
have,
some strange
actually.
reason.
Okay, let's see how much we got there. You got the scale?
There we go.
I say we're good, 50 pounds. 50 pounds of laundry is a lot bigger than I thought it was. I mean, it's like 2 full, hard-to-lift garbage bags of clothes.
I know we're not going to get all of that in the washing machine. You know, maybe about half of it at most. And that wouldn't wash it very well.
The guys construct a mini laundry in the workshop. Just like in the myth, bleach and baking soda are placed on the shelf.
As far as I can tell, it's working.
The machine runs like a dream. But they need to disable the cutoff switch so it can spin with the lid open.
Go ahead.
So is this the moment of truth?
See, it doesn't even want to spin me around. Like, I can go like this, and I can stop it. All right.
Okay, myth busted. We're done?
No. I think the next thing is to get 50 pounds of clothes and see if we can even get this thing to run with that.
Okay, let's load it up.
Oh, yeah. Bring it on.
It's not in the machine.
Well,
Well, I guess this is why the guy stood
this is
on
why
it.
the guy started standing on it. But, I mean, we still have 10 pounds left, and I can't even make my feet into it. I mean, he's supposed to have sunk all the way to the bottom. All right.
Let's see if the machine will wash it.
It wants to spin. It really does. It's not even spinning, it's not agitating, it's not doing anything. So the only option open to us now is to pull all this out, start pulling the guts out, and just make this thing spin hell or high water, no matter what the hell is in it.
It's the moment Jamie and Adam have secretly been waiting for. We're talking about taking stuff apart.
What's that? That can't be that necessary. I don't recognize it.
Ooh.
This is the clutch, man. I think you're probably right, because I don't see any belts right offhand.
Why don't we run it through a light cycle right now?
Okay.
And observe it. This should be pretty cool. How many of you have ever seen a washing machine naked?
To prevent accidents, like the one in the myth, the machine has an emergency clutch. It stops the wash cycle before the motor burns out. To make this machine spin Buster, the crash test dummy, the clutch will have to be bypassed.
Yeah.
Well, we have done what we can to modify this machine to get rid of a clutch and get rid of actually every safety feature it possesses. Now we'll find out if it is in fact strong enough to do any damage once those have all been overridden.
The washing machine from hell
is about to be unleashed upon the world.
Before Buster and his dirty clothes go back in, a test run.
It's spinning. It's going real fast.
But despite 630 revolutions per minute, they can stop it with their bare hands.
That was the thing that was going to break. Now that we removed the clutch. That was probably that little plastic.
That's that little piece of plastic. So the motor has like almost no torque at all.
This so-called washing machine from hell turns out to be Well, just another washing machine.
This is an example of one of the most powerful consumer-level motors you can get in a washing machine. This myth is totally busted for the third or fourth time today. I can't even remember which.
The myth is busted. However, as is our way here on MythBusters, we are going to show what would happen if it did have enough power.
So this once humble super capacity washing machine will mutate even further. It's goodbye, baby regular motor. Hello, Big Daddy. They're upgrading to a motor from an electric car, a motor Jamie just happened to have lying around.
These motors are 10 horsepower as well. They will literally pick this thing up and throw it. They will toss the dummy across the room or something like that. These propelled a full-sized electric car, so they're not something to be toyed with.
Attaching the motor will be tricky. But Jamie has come up with a brilliant solution. Now the spin cycle is powered like a motorcycle. The car motor is connected to the main drive shaft by a motorcycle chain.
Ah, there we go. Good.
We have a very solid plan for making this thing go like hell.
Jamie wheels in a special guest, the robot he built for a 7-Up commercial. By plugging the washing machine into the robot's power source and speed controller, he'll be able to easily direct the washer's spin speeds.
And what that gives us is a tremendous amount of power that we can control from relatively slow to as fast as it'll handle before it flies apart. This will fly apart at some point. The machine is not built for this kind of power, and we'll probably find another weak link, and another, until we end up having no washing machine left and all some big massive motor and a drum that we've made from scratch just so we can swing the damn dummy around. Right now, this thing doesn't really resemble a washing machine anymore so much as it does an electric car.
Time to bring the Franken washer to life.
This should be live, so watch out there. Is it faster or slower than the spin cycle?
That looks pretty close to the spin cycle to me. It looks a little bit slower, but it looks pretty close.
Okay, I wasn't going all the way up yet. So we've done it.
We got it.
Okay, I'll power it off.
With the washing machine ready to go, it's time to tackle the task that can be delayed no longer. Does dog pee plus baking soda equal explosion? According to the amazing killer washing machine story, it does. Jamie and Adam need some willing donor dogs.
Does the Dane have to pee? Oh, no. Now, where's the likely tree? Any ideas where the most likely tree is?
That garbage can right there.
That garbage can?
Is that it?
Stop and pee on the garbage.
Excellent. Okay. All right.
Jamie is sticking with the cup and stick method, while Adam is confident the foil pans will produce the gold. And sure enough, here's our first customer.
Jamie!
What?
He was going to go in my pans. You messed it all up. Here, you take this camera and you go over there.
Okay.
You and I'll stay right here.
Then a dog-loving friend of the MythBusters tries a rear guard action. Meanwhile, out on the park's perimeter, a lone wolf is on patrol.
So, is your dog like getting close or no? Yeah, he's not putting out.
Then a bounty hunter nabs a sample.
Wow. Thank you. Good job.
Seconds later, the persistent tailing by our panhandler brings up a speck of gold too.
There we go. Beautiful. Excellent. That's not much, but that's all that I need. I got it.
At the workshop, Buster is hauled up for another traumatic test of endurance. Even for a crash test dummy, he's constantly outside his comfort zone. The MythBusters have dropped him, crushed him, blasted him, and still
Buster survived!
The dummy soldiers on till another day. But even lifting Buster's 180-pound frame into the washing machine is causing aggravation.
Grab one of his feet.
Tell me what you're doing.
If you followed me, it would all
We got a
happen really
forklift
quickly.
here.
His feet go up and in, and then we lift him up.
No.
No.
Well, we got a forklift. You're complaining about how heavy he is. We got a forklift sitting right
come on.
here.
In 2 minutes, we'll be done. So he's swinging the butt all the way upside down, like this.
There's a camera out of there?
Yeah. Here. Now, we lift him. Oh, wait. He's copping a feel. Wait. There we go. Buster. See? See? We're done. See, that was easy.
Some of last season's fashions are packed around his legs.
I told you no colors with the whites. All right, we got the bleach up here. All right, let's do it.
Okay. I'm gonna operate it from over here at safe distance.
Jamie throws the switch on the Frankenwasher.
I'm glad we were all suitably safe distance.
That was a lot of fun. That was pretty cool. He was like a top or a Tasmanian devil.
And now, for the experiment's final phase.
Here's the baking soda. It's dumped all over the place.
I think that's exactly where a dog would pee if a dog
It's
came
on
in
the
and was
corner,
startled
yeah.
by all this.
Which it no doubt would be. Well,
So we have our carefully collected specimens. Shall we see if this causes a small explosion?
Did someone say explosion? We'd better dress for the occasion.
Basically now I'm about to pour the dog wee on the pile of baking soda, which, if the myth is correct, should cause a small explosion. Or if we're actually on Earth, we'll do absolutely bupkis.
Fire in the hole!
Nothing happened. Get me the Jack Russell Terrier urine. That ought to do it. They're hyper little creatures. All right, everybody behind the Lexan shield. Are you ready? On set!
Well, what do you know? Nothing happened.
No explosion at all. Well, Jamie, that's actually, I think, a first for us. There's not one fact about this myth that's true.
Yeah, you know, usually at least there's a tiny grain of truth somewhere in the stuff that we're dealing with. It has to start somewhere. But, you know, this one, it just isn't there. It's not practical, it's not reasonable, it doesn't make any sense.
Myth decimated.
One myth busted. But what about the unfinished chicken gun business?
3, 2.
You'll recall that while testing which chicken hits hardest, frozen or thawed, the guys discovered that their light airplane windshields were not rated for bird strikes. As a result, all their flying chickens smashed every windshield.
This chicken went through it like butter.
Whoa.
So this is the experiment take 2.
To finally lay this myth to rest, they have rethought their methodology. No more windshields. This is purely a moment of impact test. The chickens will be fired at a solid steel plate. By using the high-speed camera to measure the time between the start and finish of impact, they hope to see a difference between frozen and thawed chickens. The 3 frozen chickens clocked more than 140 miles an hour. The impact time, 7 1/1000ths of a second.
It automatically deboned the chicken, didn't it? 3, 2, 1.
Impact times for the 3 thawed chickens showed a perfect match with the frozen poultry, 7 1/1000ths of a second.
Here we go. 1 point of impact, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then now it's starting to move back again. It's given all of its impact in that amount of time.
The results from the high-speed camera seem to be fairly convincing.
You know that adage that it's not the falling that kills you, it's the stopping? The stopping is where the force gets imparted. So both the frozen and the thawed chicken have the same mass. They have effectively the same speed. So the only difference between the two is going to be how much time they take to impart their energy to the plate. And on the high-speed camera, we showed that each of them exerted all their energy in 7 milliseconds, almost exactly. Basically, there was no difference.
So does that mean the myth is busted?
At these speeds, frozen or thawed chicken, myth busted, no difference at all. Now that we're done testing, we get to have some fun.
That'd be pumpkin chunkin' kind of fun.
Dude, look at this. It's what you get when the pumpkin chunkin' champion buys your pumpkin for you. It's perfect.
With the day almost done, what better way to finish than with a few pumpkin chunkin' rounds of their own?
Was there anything in its way? I suspect that the pumpkin went through here. Oh, here we go. Jamie, can I ride it?
3, 2, 1.
Woo! That was so cool.
You feel a little tingle between your legs when that sucker went out?
I do. It's gonna be hard to top that.
The MythBusters are about to probe the mysteries of the deep in the aquarium at California's Monterey Bay, one of the world's largest marine sanctuaries. This odd story is one of the more enduring legends, with its origins way back in medieval times.
No, really, honey, those are octopus hickeys. Well, this one might seem a little silly at first, but I think we're going to have some fun with this. This woman admitted to the hospital with abdominal pains, and the doctors, upon examining her, thought that she was pregnant, so they did an emergency cesarean on her and pulled what turned out to be a live octopus from her belly. This is the myth. It seems that perhaps 6 months before, she was diving and ingested an octopus egg while diving, and it had grown to full size in her stomach.
I think partially this story is playing upon young girls' fears of pregnancy and their mothers' fears that the young girls could become pregnant. I mean, it's almost the same as the story that you can get pregnant by going in the swimming pool if there happens to be sperm floating around in that pool despite the chlorine.
To ground this myth in reality, Adam and Jamie consult the experts at Monterey Bay Aquarium.
We have shrimp and squid.
That's exactly what I had for dinner last night.
Sauteed in a little butter.
Yeah, exactly.
Feeding the giant Pacific octopus is Julia Mariottini's job. But today, it seems Adam is on the menu.
You taste different.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you must taste really good. Because he's really interested in you.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, he's very excited.
While Adam's making a new friend, Jamie tackles the big questions.
Julia, what kind of conditions do the eggs require to be successful at bearing little octopuses?
Well, they really do require the attention of the mother. She will blow jets of water on them to make sure that they're aerated. She'll clean them. They also require the correct temperature, the correct salinity, and if all goes well, then they'll hatch out. For giant octopus, it's about 6 months later.
Is it possible, let's say, if an octopus egg had just detached and was floating free, could a diver actually swim in and swallow one of these things?
That's the only part of the story that could possibly happen. By some fluke, the octopus eggs are small enough that maybe a person could swallow them, but there's no way they would hatch out.
The conditions in the stomach would not be amenable to their hatching.
Not at all.
The octopus myth is already looking pretty shaky. The MythBusters must now take another tack.
You know, Jamie, talking to Julie, it's really obvious to me that the whole idea of octopus pregnancy is just ridiculous. I mean, octopus egg can't even survive in open water without constant tending from the mother. It's definitely not going to survive in someone's stomach.
Yeah, but you know, there are myths around other creatures like frogs, lizards, snakes, even newts, you know, that this can happen with.
The octopus is perhaps the most recent incarnation. Other recent incarnations of this narrative are where a boy is getting water out of a garden hose and he swallows frog eggs, or newts, toads. Going back to medieval times, you have serpents and snakes, perhaps the most wicked seeming creature.
Many stories were fables created to scare children. Others were chilling examples of what would happen to sinners. Sometimes the sufferers would regurgitate the unwelcome visitor, but usually the episode would end badly.
So it's something taking you over, something insidious, something making you bad, and I'm sure in some versions of the narrative you did something wrong to let it in.
So, is it possible for foreign organisms to survive inside the human body?
We can replicate a stomach or several of them and put, you know, stuff that eggs would run into, like acids and maybe salinity, temperature factors.
And we'll see which ones survive and which ones don't, and which environments they work in.
Yeah.
Busting the pregnancy story means a MythBusters trip to the lab supply store. Or should that be candy store?
I love this stuff. One of everything. I've never seen continuous pipe cleaner before. I didn't even know it existed.
Which is smoother?
That's smoother. Do you think we need to get some beard covers here? What you have isn't really quite a beard, though.
I'm not sure what it is.
It's like an accessory tuft.
Ever wondered what's really inside Adam's head?
Now somebody wave from the other side.
Oh, that's cool. When do you ever get a chance? Oh, I'm a little embarrassed. That was kind of a personal experience.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Well, Adam, do we have everything we need here for this experiment?
I think we do. We've got the acid, we've got the salt, we've got the voltage meter for testing salinity, thermometer, and perhaps most importantly, in fact, without this we couldn't do the experiment, we have our test subjects here, our frog eggs.
With the octopus angle ruled out, they have opted for frogs' eggs and tadpoles, small and common enough in nature to be swallowed, and they don't need constant parental care.
Yeah, those puppies came all the way from Florida. They have a lot of frog farms down there, I understand.
3 flasks represent different conditions in the stomach. One for body temperature, water heated to 98.6. One of salt water, the same salinity as the human body. A third with a pH of 2 contains acid, imitating human stomach juices. A 4th flask is the control sample.
All right, so we got some tadpoles and some eggs in there. Let's say we do 2 of each.
Okay, you got the little squirt bulb?
I do. Here we go.
The control sample of eggs and tadpoles will swim in a flask of aerated water, the ideal environment for tadpole survival.
You ready for the acidity?
Okay.
Okay, which one is that? Acid, this one here.
Hydrochloric acid actually secretes in the stomach, and it's powerful stuff. Extremely corrosive. A single drop can eat through wood. Jamie and Adam need to dilute their pure hydrochloric to match stomach acidity.
Yeah, real close.
All right.
1.99. All right.
The pH scale runs from 0 to 14. Pure water is neutral with a pH of 7. Anything below 7 is acid, and anything above is alkaline. Common examples range from battery acid at 1, the stomach at 2, an apple scores a pH of 4, and milk of magnesia a mild 10.5.
Doesn't seem to be doing so hot. He's definitely more laconic than his racetrack friends here, you know. He's just kind of sitting there on the top.
Next, the body temperature test. They heat water to 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, here we go. He's not, you know, doing a racetrack thing like his brethren down here in the Pyrex.
For the next phase of the experiment, Adam's making a personal contribution.
Here we go.
What Adam's doing is measuring the electrical conductivity of his saliva. Now, we're going to try and replicate that conductivity in water by adding salt to it.
Electrical resistance is the best way to determine salinity because dissolved salts are strong conductors. In Adam's mouth, the resistance is low, measuring around 4 kiloohms.
There's one. He's doing pretty good.
No, he's actually doing fine.
Here's another. Salinity, they both seem to be doing okay, so we should leave this overnight and see how it does.
Yeah.
Tadpoles might find it tough going in the stomach, but are there any life forms tailored to the conditions?
Come down here, I got some worms all set for you.
If anyone knows about creatures surviving in the human stomach, it's Dr. Jim McCarroll from the University of California at San Francisco. As a professor of pathology, he's heard all the stories.
Why would it not be possible for a thing like an octopus or a snake to grow and develop in your body?
The acid in your stomach is there to dissolve meat and other food materials, and any type of living organism that doesn't have a way to protect itself against that is going to just wind up as digested food.
So are there creatures that do have that type of protection that can make it through the acid in the stomach?
Oh, most certainly. Tapeworms, for example, which are a type of parasite that you get from eating undercooked pork or beef. Also, certain types of roundworms, where in this case it's the egg of the worm that makes it through and then hatches in your intestine. And in both of those cases, the reason that they can actually make it through the gastric acid is that they're coated with a very hard shell. It's called a cuticle, and it's about as hard as your fingernail. So by having this, basically this armor on its surface, these worms can make it through the gastric acid, get into the small intestine, and basically live in paradise because they have as much food as they want to eat.
In the United States, between 1900 and 1920, tapeworms were being advertised for weight loss. Each segment of the worm was sold individually with claims like no ill effects and easily swallowed. Today, worldwide, about 1 billion people are infected with parasitic worms, particularly in tropical regions.
You know, with things this big and this prevalent, it's not surprising that a lot of stories probably evolved because people were seeing these things in their environment all the time, and they probably attained mythical proportions.
When you look at these, the leap to an octopus doesn't seem like that great a leap.
Sure, I mean, and imagine these all bunched together. You know, it would be like a Medusa head. Mm-hmm. And they'd often be passed by a child that way, so you actually would see something that looks like a Medusa head lying in the crib.
That must be it. What do you think?
I think no pasta for lunch. All right, Jamie, it's been 3 days. How are our frogs doing?
Well, most of them are still alive. You know, the control group is great. They're happy little tadpoles swimming way in there.
They look even bigger than they were a couple days ago.
I believe they have grown a little bit. And the salt water seems to be fine with them.
Yeah, they're
you know,
still going.
They're doing just as well as a control group, actually.
What were the killers?
The real killers were the acid and the high temperature.
Well, that killed them each in like 10 or 15 minutes, didn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, Jamie, I think we've done everything we can to show that octopus pregnancy, it's absolutely ridiculous. We've busted it wide open.
And the octopus really liked your hand.
I think I'm actually in love.